So you now should be able to see the projector screen as it is reflected on my display over here. And the main reason that I do this is so that when we do the small adjustments on the different apps that we're going to be practicing, the different sort of things I'm going to be showing off to y'all, it's super hard to see it on the projector, especially if you're in the back of the room. And even if you're up close, the projector is not the highest resolution sort of system that we got going on here. So the Zoom room is kind of my remedy to that. So everybody has a chance to look into my screen, see what we're working with here. And this also gives me the opportunity to record my lectures, record my screen to show you what I'm doing, especially in Photoshop and Illustrator, so you can go back and watch it again if you ever need a reminder on what we did. But first, before we do that, go on. Okay, so now that you have access to my screen, that means I can show you the next boring part of the housekeeping stuff that I have in mind. You know we're doing housekeeping today because it is highlighted right here underneath your class and the date. So the way that I typically set up the headers on my my agendas, on the thread, I'll put the most relevant information before we get into the actual goals right at the top here. So if we're doing a certain assignment or we're working on a certain idea in graphic design, that's going to live here. And then your Zoom room instructions are going to be following that pretty nearby. Sometimes the Zoom room will have instructions to join after a certain activity. If there is one at all, it will say right here, or within 5 minutes like we did today. This is the most typical. But your Zoom room instructions are always going to be right here at the heading if you're ever curious. Okay, so those are also available in the resources module of Canvas. If we go to modules here, resources is always going to live at the top of our Canvas, and each week is going to stack above the last. So when week 2 hits, it's going to be right here in between 1 and 2, but resources is going to stay up at the top there, and it will grow as more and more resources become available. Let me put my captions over here so you can see me, or you can at least kind of read what I'm talking about here. Okay, anyway. So let's look at the agenda. I'm going back to announcements, going back to P6. That covers the Zoom room practice plus the example. This is the way that I most commonly teach, and I most commonly do this towards the beginning of the week, and the second half of the week is where you guys have your work time or workshop time, stuff like that. It's not always going to be a Zoom room, but when there is, I can post it and you'll be able to see on the agenda. Okay, now let's talk about some more boring stuff. Let's make sure your OneDrives are logged in. If you had one of my classes earlier, you already did this part, but I'm going to switch my screen share real quick so that you can see what your OneDrive looks like if you've not already set it up. So now you should be able to see my teacher monitor, the larger one. Let me make this look a little bit more like yours. You guys have 2 options to make sure that your OneDrive is syncing. I see some of y'all already doing it. That is totally fine. You have 2 options to make sure your OneDrive is syncing. You want to look down in the tray space, which is this bottom right corner of your monitor by default. I can turn on this little pointer if it helps. Your tray space is right down here. And you're looking for this blue cloud. Mine is blue because I'm logged in. Yours is likely going to be gray with a slash through it. And it's also probably going to be inside of this menu right here. So if you click on the little caret icon, your gray cloud with a slash may be in some of these apps right here. I have a couple different ones running, but what you want to do is click on that gray slash and put in your Outlook login so that you can start syncing your OneDrive. The other option, because we're going to save all of our stuff to OneDrive, we want to start this process now so we don't have to do it every single time we log in, right? It's going to get real tiring hearing me say, make sure that your OneDrive is syncing. Because I'm going to say it a lot until the computers figure out how we want to run this stuff. The other option is if you open up your File Explorer. Let's not draw on the screen right now, please, while we're live. That would be great. Thank you. Clear that real fast. There's a time and a place. It's just neither right now. Okay, so your File Explorer is looking a little something like this. Actually, probably looks a little bit more like this. There's also a OneDrive destination, just some more vocab we're throwing at you right now. There's a OneDrive destination on the left-hand side, and you know you've logged in correctly if it says OneDrive and then Issaquah WedNet EDU. If yours does not say that, you can click on it there and do the same sign-in process to make sure that your OneDrive is doing its thing when it needs to do its thing. If you want some extra tools available on your file explorer here, you can double click on any of these tabs at the top, home, share, or view. If you click on them twice, it's going to pop open this extra set of tools that's going to be more relevant once we start making our organizational structures. So I guess I can switch back to my other screen if you're still waiting to get in the canvas or whatever reason, I understand. The Zoom rooms are always going to be referencing my projector screen. So if your Zoom room isn't working or we lose internet or whatever, you're sitting close to the actual projector, you can look up here as well. I just find it a lot easier to actually project it to your screens so you don't have to all crane and actually not participate in or not participate, but like choose on what you're participating with. Anyways, whatever, it's not that important. Okay. So a really important part of graphic design is organizing your files and making sure that you have a naming scheme that makes sense when you send a file to a client. So remember, a lot of the times your clients are not going to be graphic designers themselves. They're not going to know a lot of the more technical terminology. They just want you to make a product that they can understand how to use. So we will do a lot of emphasis on correct file naming and file organization in this class, at least at the beginning. And we can get started with that by saving our files to a safe location like the OneDrive. So this is what my OneDrive looks like. I understand that there are organizational structures that work better for you as compared to other people, right? I mean, sorry, that came out kind of weird. What I mean is everyone has their own organizational structure that works for them, works for their brain. I respect that. I know that I'm a little bit more organized than I probably need to be. I'm a little paranoid and I've got subfolders upon subfolders for everything that I need, which makes it a real pain trying to find something because I have to go 10 folders deep for a single file. You don't have to go that far. All you need to do is have a safe place to save your files and know how to save them efficiently so that it makes sense when you reopen them. How many of you guys, just show of hands, have looked into your OneDrive and seen about a sea of documents that are unnamed with a number after them? I think the highest number I saw on a student's computer was like 450 one time. Document 450, they made another one, document 451, cycle continues. We're ending that cycle here. No longer. What you guys need to do now is go into your OneDrive. You can tell you've got it because it's a little bit grayer on the file explorer, or it says OneDrive up here. You need to go into some type of folder and create a new folder for graphic design so that you have a place to save these things. Mine, I organize by year and then by semester and then by class. You don't have to go that deep, but as long as it's in your OneDrive and you've got a graphic design folder, you're good. If yours looks like this, if your file explorer is something like this, double click on the word home and you'll get this new folder button right here. That when you click it, you can call it graphic design, whatever. I usually like to do in here, here's how I like to do it. I add a number 1 for, what is my number 1? Number 1 is for assets. Those are pieces of your files. Number 2 is for projects. That's where the actual raw file lives, where you're still working on it. And then number 3, I like to have one for exports so that I have a place for finished projects that I can really quickly find the end result. You do not have to do this step. This is just a step that I like to do that makes sense for me. And I find in my client experience, makes the process a little bit more streamlined. So if you want to copy mine, you can, but you don't have to do this part. You can do whatever works for you. That's what I value a lot about classes like these, is you guys have a lot of freedom to do what you need to do, just so long as me, your client, or me, your supervisor, in this case, since we're in a design sort of lab, can make sense of it, works for me. As long as there's no long string of untitled, use this final project, use this one, V2, V5, V10, none of that, okay? It'll make more sense later next week when we do some more boring stuff. Okay, so if you've got your OneDrive syncing and you've got a graphic design folder inside of there, you're good with this first part of stuff that I'm showing off. So I'm going to take a quick lap and see where we're at with that. And then we can move on to our next brief thing on the agenda. So I'm going to pause. All right, so these are looking good so far. Hey guys, I'm almost done. We're back on the air. We're switching. Life, death, life, death, life, death, like from SpongeBob with the lamp. Anyway, hopefully you know what I'm talking about. Let's do our Adobe logins now. More boring stuff. To log into Adobe and make sure that you have access to all these Creative Cloud files, they first need to be signed in with your Issaquah account, and then they need to be checked for updates. We're gonna start that process now by going to your Windows button, hitting your Windows key on your keyboard, and typing in creative. The word creative because we want this rainbow Adobe Creative Cloud. The Creative Cloud is what manages your apps. I'm already signed in, so let me sign out real fast. Yours is gonna look something like this once mine decides to sign out. This is where you put in your Outlook login, your email login, because it's tied to your school account. So since you're in a CTE class, which is my department, and since you're in one of Blakeney's classes, you guys have full access to the entire Adobe Creative Cloud suite for as long as you're enrolled in this program. So that means, and I think, big asterisk on think, you get 4 computers that you can log into. So that means if you download Creative Cloud on your home PC, if you've got one, and you sign in with your Issaquah, you can use the creative files or the creative apps on your own computer. This includes your laptop. This includes any other PC in the room. But once you hit that 4 max, it's going to be like, hey, you got to sign out of one of these. And you just sign out from the oldest and you keep continuing the cycle. If you have an iPad, you can use the Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop and Lightroom apps from the App Store that don't count against your device total. So you can use those on your phone as well, Lightroom at least. But you're going to log in here with your Issaquah. It's going to prompt you to pull up the Microsoft login after you put in your email here. Like this guy. I'm going to put in my password real quick. Give me a second. It's like 3 business days long. Cool. And I just like to click yes on stay signed in. You can do whatever. Okay. So now it's going to sign you into the Creative Cloud. It's going to slow down because we're all making a big sign-in request at the same time. So just be patient with it. And now the last and final thing you need to do today is go to this updates section. You can see right here, the updates portion in the top left. And you want to check for updates by clicking on the top right here. You're probably going to have some updates. First periods, I don't think finished. So maybe you will, maybe you won't. Yeah, what's up? Okay, I'll help you in just a second. But this is the thing that you're currently working on, is just checking for updates. Before I help you guys individually, let's check our thread, see what we hit today. We got OneDrive logins. We got Adobe logins. We'll talk about YouTube thumbnails here in a second. So let me help you guys get signed up and stuff on this before we move on to our last thing and a couple quick announcements for graphic design. Refocus, guys. We're still live. You guys should still not be distracted. I shouldn't be seeing any backside heads at least while I'm announcing up here. Should be at least looking at the screen. Okay, last thing I want to talk about before you guys have some time. My philosophy, you've heard me say this before if you had a class with me earlier, but my philosophy is that the reward for finishing your work on time, for using your class time effectively, for just being an efficient designer should not be more work. I don't think that when you finish a project, you should get extra stuff to work on, personally. With that being said, if you finish your work on time and you manage your time effectively, which is a huge skill in graphic design, then the rest of the time in this period becomes your time. Whether that is for working on other classwork, whether that is just for resting in between periods, whatever. As long as you finish my stuff first, I really don't mind what you do, as long as it's school appropriate. Okay. All I ask is you use your class time wisely and you finish my stuff before you start doing other stuff. Is that fair? Is that cool with everybody? Cool. So something that you can spend your time doing if you want to, completely and totally optionally, is since I record these videos and upload them to YouTube, I need some YouTube thumbnails. That is a great opportunity for you guys to show off your graphic design skills and actually see your work in the real world. Attached to the YouTube videos for class. So let me pull up a couple examples. Again, if you were in my class already, you already saw these. But if you've not, let me show you what some students have created in just the past semester, actually. Okay, hold on. I got to get through all my files. Okay, so for example, you could do something like this. This is from web design. I'm open to anything that's school appropriate. This is one of my default ones, just in case I have to throw one together or we don't get one, which is fine as well. Just realized my microphone was off. I'm sorry. There's another one. That's student made. That's student made. You can have some fun with this. You can go the Mr. Beast direction. You can take it more seriously and create something that you're really proud of. You can do that with the Mr. Beast direction too, but there's another good one from web design. Right, that's a good one. These are all student made. So if you're interested in using the skills that we cover in graphic design to make me some YouTube thumbnails, I am happy to see them. And I'm excited to see them, actually. It's one of my favorite parts about this class. Make sense? Yep. All right. So with that being said, we have covered everything on our agenda goals-wise today, which means the rest of this time is yours to run updates. If you want to make me YouTube thumbnails, I can help you get started on that. You will be credited as well. I'm not just stealing them. That's basically the day. We got 20 more minutes to just kind of relax until 7th period. Just make sure those Adobe updates are running. I'm going to process this Zoom room real quick, and then I can help you with your specific questions. Does anybody have any questions for me? You have a question? Okay. All right, perfect. Thank you guys for listening. I really appreciate it. We are off the air, which means the time is yours. Come tomorrow expecting, ready to talk about some syllabus stuff, things like that. And then on Monday, we're going to start with our actual assignments. So get excited for that.